Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this subcommittee of the Licensing and Regulatory Committee. There are 3 items on the agenda. First of all, apologies for absence. I don't think there are any. Declarations of interest, as and when. I don't think we've got any anyway. And the third is to consider an application for a premises licence for Chepstow Store, 4 to 5 Beaufort Square, Chepstow. And I think Taylor Watt is going to lead us on that.
Before we start, should we start introduce ourselves?
Sorry. Yeah. I'm Brian Strong, Chairman of this committee. To my right.
Councillor Jane Pratt, and member of the Licensing Committee.
And
Taylor Watts, Licensing Officer.
Linda Gorman, Principal Licensing Officer.
Okay, Taylor.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Okay, so this is a new application for a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003. It was received from Mr Alpesh Patel for Chepstow Store, 4 to 5 Beaufort Square, Chepstow, NP165LG. The application was made for the following: supply of alcohol, off sales only, Monday to Sunday, 0600 hours to 2400 hours, and hours open to the public, Monday to Sunday, 0600 hours to 2400 hours. The applicant has stated they would like to operate it as an off licence in a confectionery store. A map of the area is attached as Appendix B. Okay. The applicant, within the operating schedule, has outlined their arrangement and the 4 licensing objectives: Challenge 21 policy, installation of CCTV, staff training, adhere to trading hours and identify troublemakers and refuse to serve, apply good practices, train staff and maintain high trading standards always, with adequate staff training and regular supervision. If granted, the licence would also be subject to mandatory conditions which are attached to this report as Appendix C. The application was referred to responsible authorities, set out in 3.4. A notice was also circulated in the newspaper and also advertised on the council's website. Also, a notice was displayed at the premises to enable businesses and residents to make any representations. A representation was received against the application from Gwent Police. Gwent Police advised they would not object to this application if the following amendments were made. CCTV cameras shall be installed both inside and outside the premises, and these cameras shall be operational at all times the premises is trading. All recordings shall be retained for a minimum of 28 days and shall be made available for inspection by an authorised officer upon request. A Challenge 21 policy shall be operated at the premises at all times. If operating a Challenge 21 policy, all staff shall check the identification of all persons who appear to be less than 21 years old. This check shall be made by examining either a passport or photographic driving licence. No other form of identification shall be accepted. Publicity materials notifying customers of the operation of the Challenge 21 schemes shall be displayed at the premises. The premises licence holder shall operate and maintain an up-to-date register of refusals of sales of alcohol, indicating the date, time and reason for refusal, which shall be made available for inspection by any responsible authority under the Licence Act 2003. The DPS shall check the book once a week, ensuring that it is complete and up to date. The DPS will sign the book each time it is checked. A documented training scheme shall be introduced for all staff. The scheme shall be made available for inspection at the request of any responsible authority under the Licensing Act 2003. Employees shall be instructed not to serve anyone behaving drunk or in disorderly manner. The applicant agreed to the police recommendations via email, a copy of which is attached as Appendix D. As a result of the applicant agreed to the changes in 3.6, along with 3.2, they form part of the licence. In relation to the other objectives mentioned in 3.5, an email was issued to the licensing section to the an email was issued by the licensing section to the 4 other persons advising them of the amended application above. The email requested the objectors confirm if they wish to pursue their objection in view of the change to the original application. 3 persons stated they wish to continue with the objection to the application, and the licensing section received no response from the remaining person. The objections are summarised as follows. The area already has 2 corner shops where their amenities have caused issues for the local area. St Mary Street should be pedestrianised and should not be open to traffic between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m, but it has vehicles speeding and driving dangerously down. Vehicles also park illegally to collect coffee and use the street as a cut-through to avoid traffic congestion. Shop owners are constantly cleaning up beer bottles, cigarette ends and vomit from outside their stores after the weekend, and so it is believed having this type of premises would exacerbate this issue further. Concern that customers will loiter in the street causing antisocial behaviour, and there are ongoing issues with refuge in the street and traffic issues which may get worse if the premises opens. Further to this information, we received further information regarding a planning query from a person making a representation. Linda O'Gorman responded to the applicant with the information we received from planning, where they said the change of use from an A2 professional and financial services to an A1 shop is permitted under planning, so we have no objection. Representations made under the Licensing Act 2003 must be made under 4 key licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. If I take you to the reasons now. In section 9.4 of the guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, the Secretary of State recommends that a representation would only be relevant if it relates to the likely effect of the grant of the licence on the promotion of at least one of the licensing objectives. In section 13.10 of the guidance issued under section 182, it is important that a licensing authority should give comprehensive reasons for its decisions in anticipation of any appeals. Failure to give adequate reasons could itself give rise to grounds for an appeal. It is particularly important that reasons should also address the extent to which the decision has been made with regard to the licensing authority's statement and policy and this guidance. Monmouthshire County Council has adopted a cumulative impact policy for the area. It states applications for new premises authorisations or club premises certificates or material variations will normally be refused unless it can be demonstrated that the operation of the premises involved will not add to the cumulative impact already being experienced. So further to this, the police have no objection following the new conditions being put in place. Finally, applicants will be encouraged to demonstrate in their operating schedule that suitable and sufficient measures have been identified and it will be implemented and maintained to prevent nuisance. So this is also relating to as per the conditions stated and demonstrated in 3.7. So just to summarise, it is recommended that members consider and determine the application referred to in 3.1 below based on the information provided.
Thank you, Taylor. Jane.
Can I just ask, Chair, do we ever have people that are objecting come along to speak to us at meetings, licensing meetings? And obviously none of these people, if that's the case, none of these people that are objecting have decided to come along today.
Yes, we invite all persons making representations and the applicant. I have an email. Let me have a look. The applicant advised on the 30th of December that he was not able to attend the hearing and just asked, please inform me of the outcome of the hearing. 2 persons who made representation advised they could not make today's meeting, and 2 others I received no response from.
Yeah, no, I've seen those. They're excellent. Yeah.
Referring to the pictures, just to clarify what Taylor said, obviously, whatever outcome today, the objections have to be under the 4 key licensing objectives, which is prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance and protection of children from harm. That is why I responded before issuing it out to yourselves to let you know that we can refer to planning, but obviously this is ultimately a licensing decision, but we do refer to planning and they are consulted on. They have no objection to this. And with regards to the objection of selling sort of the likes of sandwiches and things like that, that's not a matter to be taken into consideration today. It is only purely whether or not the licence will be granted for the alcohol sales side of it. And you have one thing you have to bear in mind, even if that isn't granted today, that the premises can still open as a venue if they wanted to do so.
Tony?
Thank you. Is it normal to have licensing for alcohol between 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night? The applicants want to keep the property from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. Will the alcohol fit into that as well?
2400, so it would be midnight.
Midnight.
Yes.
Yeah. With all applications, you have to treat everyone on its own merit. So whatever they wish to have is unlike the old licensing regime where you would have stop tap at 11 o'clock and that's it. It is different now. I mean, you have to look at the circumstances for each venue. If there was no objections, it would mean the licence would get processed. But the fact that there are objections raised, and you have to look at the nature of the objections, and that's why I couldn't emphasise enough, you need to ensure it's the 4 key licence object, because some of it may not fall into that. One point under the guidance, even though it does state in there that even though their objections may not be under those 4 licence objections, whatever their concerns are may lead into it. So you are advised to hear the objections, but obviously be up to you to decide if you feel it falls under the 4 licensing objectives itself.
Thank you. I'm pleased, to see that the police have obviously looked at this very carefully, and they've put some very sensible recommendations and restrictions that, if we go ahead and offer this licence, it will be, providing those are in place, which I'm encouraged. I think also, the issues that are raised by the objectors, although I take them very seriously, they don't really refer to the shop itself. They're really referring to traffic and police issues, which is really, something beyond this committee's remit. And I feel that, we should be supporting any business that is opening in our high street as much as we can, because our high streets are, that it's a very difficult trading environment at the moment. And, I think Chepstow is a very characterful place. And, I think that we should be, supporting traders in every way. And I really would not have, I have no objection to this application, and I would support it.
I do have some concerns about the licensing hours from 6 in the morning till midnight. It's a busy spot in the area. I know the area. And we got to look at the prevention of crime and disorder. I know the nighttime economy is pretty busy there. We've got to look at public safety, prevention of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. In terms of the alcohol sales, I'm a bit concerned that they should be available at 6 o'clock in the morning. Questionable at night because the nighttime economy takes some of the pubs to maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, if I'm right. So I do have concerns about the supply of alcohol during those hours. Other than that, I got no objection to the, in my view, no objection to the application for the change of, or the use of the shop. But do concern about the sale of alcohol.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. It does seem a long time to be open from 6 in the morning till midnight. Is it possible for us to suggest that the opening hours are reduced?
You don't have to go with what's on the application. It's you have that option whether or not you either refuse the application or support the application as it stands, or you can reduce the hours of the permissions available as well. You have that power as a committee.
If we were to suggest that the opening hours were reduced for the sale of alcohol, could the shop then be left open for the sale of food, except for example?
Yep, I mean, it is only the supply of alcohol that you're making a decision on for the time, so the shop itself could open, as you quite rightly say, for a much longer period if they wanted to do so. It just means that the alcohol would cease trading at that whatever time that you would stipulate on the licence itself. Consumption isn't a licence active, but it is off sales on this occasion, so it's not consuming the alcohol at the venue. They're not permitted to do that. Off sales means that they would purchase the alcohol and they have to go from the premises to drink it, basically.
Can I just ask, I mean, in many towns now there are 24-hour supermarkets that sell alcohol 24/7. Are there any in the Chepstow area?
You do have, you're going to have to sort of make a decision on this venue, but you do have a supermarket that is permitted to sell 24 hours if they wanted to do so in that area.
So do they voluntarily stop selling alcohol at, say, 11 o'clock at night? I see some supermarkets will close their alcohol for 11 o'clock at night. Is this the case in Chepstow?
The permission is there, and I think it is up to the individual. It's the same with a licensed venue. Even if you grant a license, they don't necessarily have to open for that extent of time. It's up to the person who is the license holder. The only difference is that they would have to ensure they don't go over and above what is on their license. So as you quite rightly say, if we had a supermarket that sold 24 hours, they could, if they want to do, say, at Christmas period or whatever, take advantage of that and allow longer opening hours, or they could have it at a reduced rate as well, you know, a reduced time.
I see the police have not thrown up any objections to this, but I am aware in the locality there was a concern about 24-hour sales of alcohol in some of the supermarkets, and I think there's a voluntary code. I may be wrong, I may be right, I'm not sure. A voluntary code about certain times they would stop selling alcohol, particularly supermarkets. I know that the local pubs can stay open until 12, 1 o'clock some nights, other times of the week different, but I do have concerns about the fact that after 1 o'clock in the morning they can have got their alcohol and then continue outside in the street. But we've got to take on board the police's views on this, and they haven't raised this, and I'm surprised they haven't raised it.
Obviously, the police have put in extra measures to ensure that it is monitored, and the applicant is happy to carry on with the police recommendations with that. If it is granted, there are further powers that can be done at a later stage if it is found that the premises isn't acting in a manner it should do. There is obviously the review process as well. If people are so aggrieved and it does fall into the fall as objectives, there is huge problems with that venue, then it can be looked at again. But obviously it is your decision today what you would want on the premises licence itself.
Okay, that gives us a bit of guidance to what could or might not or happen would be voluntarily sorted out by the police. So in some respects, I'm not happy with the opening hours, but if there's going to be a monitoring, maybe I should temper my views.
Yes, I mean, I think that given the situation with the sales of alcohol now throughout Wales, the concern I have about restricting hours is how you're going to police it. And I think that it's going to be very difficult to police. Say you said, oh, well, they can only sell alcohol up to 10 o'clock at night. You know, how you're going to actually check that that's happening. I think it's going to be a difficult one to police. So I really think that up to 12 o'clock at night, with the strict guidelines there, that if somebody looks as if they're intoxicated, they're not to be sold, and the alcohol. And I think, as you say, if down the line we do have problems, then we can revisit this and review our decision.
There is one further power, which I obviously didn't mention as well. You know, they've got the conditions from the police on there, the extra conditions and the conditions that the applicant has voluntarily put in place. But you also have powers to put in any further conditions that you may wish as well on the licence itself, if you feel necessary to do so. So that's another option as well. You can put either conditions, reduce the hours as it stands, or revoke. So that's your powers as well. So I didn't actually mention that bit. Okay.
The subcommittee have considered the application for a premises licence for the 4/5 Beaufort Square, Chepstow. We've considered the written application and written objections as neither applicant nor objectors were present. In reaching the decision, we have had regard to the Licensing Act 2003, the licensing objectives, the Council Statement of Licensing Policy, and the guidance issued by the Home Office. In taking into account all of the above matters and all the relevant circumstances of the application, the following points were discussed. We were pleased to note the conditions suggested by the police and that the applicant had agreed these, and are confident that these will assist in running the premises safely. We were pleased particularly to know that CCTV would be in place. We're aware that it is possible to purchase alcohol locally from supermarket and public houses. We are mindful of the local economy and the nighttime economy. This will ensure an empty premises is put into use. Some other objections were considered, better dealt with the police, better dealt with as a police matter. And we have therefore decided to grant this licence subject to these conditions being met. A further and future monitoring taking place. Thank you very much. Right, that concludes the meeting. Thank you.